Folks, welcome to the Cover One Roundup. The Bills just won their division on December 1st before any other team in the NFL did, including a 10-1 Black Magic Chiefs team. How are we all doing tonight? How are we? Are we good? Are we feeling good tonight? Are we enjoying ourselves? Did we enjoy 5 straight AFC East titles? Did we enjoy getting that in a middle of a literal snow globe effect? Did we enjoy all this? Did we have fun? Did we have fun last night? Uber, did you have fun last night?
I had a lot of fun last night. I've been suffering because of the fun all day with a little bit of a hangover. What's helped that is rewatching a bunch of highlights, all the new footage coming out, some different player interviews, things like that. What a game. What a season so far. And like you said, 5 straight division titles. That's 5 in a row. The Jets don't even have 5 division titles in their franchise's history. Incredible past 5 years, and still more work to do this season.
I'm glad you brought that up. The Colts have more division titles than in this division than the Jets do in their entire history.
Oh, that's glorious.
Oh man, I put in the description of this show that the 2000s and the 2010s were dominated by the Patriots and Belichick and Brady and this unending, almost entirely uninterrupted domination that they had over this division. And the 2020s are clearly the decade of McDermott and Allen and the Bills. And it's so much more fun to be on the other side of this sort of thing. And especially after the offseason that was had, where, just talent out the door by choice or by being forced out, essentially, to have everyone say the window is closed, the window is no longer open. They're going to have to take their medicine. Maybe in a year or two, they're going to have to, they'll be able to come back and put together a good enough roster. But until then, you're going to have to deal with the Jets, and you're going to have to deal with the Dolphins, who are clearly ascending. And then what has happened but the exact same thing that's happened in the last 4 seasons? The Bills just continue to win. And it doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. It only matters what the Bills are doing. And what the Bills do is win division titles.
Yeah, man. I still do think it's wild that the Jets are 3-9. That's insane to me. I did not think that their floor was this. But it is a good dose of Schadenfreude. Watching those fan bases melt down, watching Peter Schrager melt down on Twitter today because he got called out for having an invalid take because he picked the Jets to win the division. And as it sits right now, they're 7.5 games behind the Bills. So I think they're all but eliminated. Yeah, it's been a good 24 hours and watching the rest of the AFC East absolutely crumble to a point where suddenly it's like next year the fear is the Patriots. That's the fear next year, which I won't be particularly scared of the Patriots next season. The Jets and Dolphins are both descending teams, and the Bills somehow are ascending, which is crazy to say after the past 4 years. To say they're ascending right now, it's exciting. This team is really, really fun. We've talked about vibes this entire season, the entire offseason. I don't think that there's a team in the NFL having more fun than the Bills right now. Like, they look like they're having a blast playing football.
Against Kansas City, Amari Cooper said, "That's the most joy I've ever felt winning a football game," which for somebody who played at the University of Alabama and some other, he played for Dallas. Cowboys players get treated like stars, right? Like, this is someone who has been in some great positions. He was on the team. Was he on the team that No, he wasn't. I was going to say he was part of the team that broke Cleveland's playoff drought, but he wasn't. But he was still on a really good Cleveland team last year that had a really great story and a great run down the end of the year. And for him to be like, yeah, this is the most joy I've ever felt in a long time playing football and winning a football game. That is crazy. The man won a national championship in 2012 with Alabama. Like, this is not some dude who, has never really experienced anything like this. He knows what it's like to be at the top. And that to do something like this is crazy. And then you have Taylor Rapp, who we're going to talk about.
Yes.
We're going to talk about Taylor Rapp. We're going to have a very long discussion about Taylor Rapp. But for him to just, after this game, I mean, this is somebody who grew up in Washington, went to the University of Washington, went to the Rams, has been a West Coast dude his entire life, then goes to Buffalo. And then after this game, he's just like, this is the funnest game I've ever played in, which is not a grammatically correct statement, but it doesn't matter. When you're in that sort of state, it's just stuff like that doesn't matter. It's amazing that multiple guys, kind of unprompted, just sort of say how much fun they're having playing football.
Yeah.
Like, this is when people talk about culture in football, especially in the NFL, sometimes it gets overstated because of who is talking about the culture. Like, when Matt Patricia talked about trying to change Detroit's culture, like, he just wanted to be Bill Belichick.
Yeah, just emulate Bill. Yeah.
Right. Where it's my way or the highway. And it's like Bill Belichick earned those stripes because he's smarter than everyone else and communicates better than everyone else and won better than everyone else. You can't do that right off the bat, Matt, because you're not that guy. And the culture in Detroit got worse with him. Then you bring in somebody like Dan Campbell. Suddenly the culture changes because he's out there wearing his heart in his sleeve every single time he goes to a press conference talking about biting kneecaps, or he's crying because they lost another game in that first year, a point or 2 points or something like that. Like, you when we talk about culture, these are the sorts of things that happen. You have guys that want to be in these places because they know that this game that they're playing will actually be fun for them. Like, that's what's great about something like this. You look at a team like Cincinnati, right? The vibes were bad coming into the season because there's only so much that somebody like a Zach Taylor or a Joe Burrow can do to fix a culture that, like, just doesn't really care to help their players, essentially. Yeah. That's not what's happening in Buffalo. It is the exact opposite.
Yeah, and that's something that I've always loved about the Sean McDermott era. And I think there's some people, some Bills fans in particular, that chose to get sick of it to some extent because of failures in the playoffs and because it's like, we want to get rid of Sean McDermott. And not to go into that discussion, but the culture he's built in Buffalo has made Buffalo a desirable destination, has made it a fun place to play football. And it's kind of proven by every player that leaves. Some of them might say bad things when they're gone, but for some reason, they all want to come back at some point. All of them try to come back. And I think Sean McDermott, I don't know if it was in the post-game interview last night or in his interview today, he talked about a story where he was at the combine and somebody had said to him, like, it's going to be really hard to get people to go play in Buffalo. And Sean kind of scoffed at it and didn't really say anything. But in his head, he said, I was thinking, I just have to get them here once. The second they're here, they're never going to want to leave. And I think you're seeing that with players like Taylor Rapp, who came to Buffalo, really not in a starting role by any means last year, kind of in a reserve position with some sort of unwritten promise, essentially, that you will be the future of this position. Mm-hmm. Then they give him the 3-year deal this offseason, and he's balling out. You look at Amari Cooper and how he feels here. Keon Coleman's even talked about the culture and how much fun it is here. And all of it is owed, or the majority of it is owed, to Sean McDermott, that entire coaching staff, Brandon Beane, and Josh Allen, because Josh Allen does affect people's want to come here, and he affects their want to play at a different level. When you see your quarterback going full on Superman for a pylon in a blowout game, you're going to want to play for him. You're going to want to run through a wall for him. And I think that's what we're seeing this season right now, is a team that's all bought in and just saying, go, go, go. It's been just an awesome, awesome season so far.
we'll get to some comments right now because very happy to see all of you here. By the way, if you're joining us for the first time, thank you. If you're a longtime supporter, I see many of you are here. Very happy to always have you guys. Leave a like right now if you haven't already. Helps us, supports us. Appreciate it every time. Just the tip of canoe. Do I have to wear pants for this? Let me tell you something. Anybody who knows me in real life can attest to this. I am pro pantslessness. So you do what you need to do, man. I mean, how Matt Collins feels about shoes, I also feel about shoes, but not quite as extreme. I would have worn shoes last night. I wouldn't have come to that stadium without shoes, but also, well, I'm okay with having pants off in the privacy of my own home. RJ Melfield, look at this, people. RJ is a positive man tonight. There is positivity from this man. It's a rare sight to see in this moment. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad that he actually enjoys this right now. It's a rare thing. I'm happy for him, if nothing else. C Rose says, "Go Bills AFC East champions." Sarah Christine says, "Bills social media team put out a short AFC East champ video trolling all the puns who said the Bills were done. Rich Eisen even did an apology video about it." It's funny because Rich Eisen is a Jets fan, I believe.
Yeah.
And like many Jets fans, believes that to be like the most embarrassing part of his entire life. But he's always been like pretty strongly pro Bills.
Yeah.
Like he's always been very outspoken about how he admires how the Bills play and Josh Allen and all that stuff. So it's not surprising.
He's one of the he's one of my favorite because he can take his bias out of a lot of things and have a legitimate conversation. He handled that the right way.
Yeah.
Other analysts did not handle it.
Certainly did not, Peter Schrager. Keon's Jacket Jockey says 2 primetime games where the Bills not only win, but they are having a blast doing it. The Bills are football. RJ also says the Jets and Dolphins fans can't say anything bad about the Bills now. This is absolute dominance of a division. So like before the season started, I know we've talked about this show before and it's kind of worth watching now. I might do it at some point during this week to kind of see what played out, what didn't. But we did a show with Greg and Chris Seth and Kyle. And we just talked about like hot takes that we mostly believe in coming into the season. And I said, the Eagles would win their division by like a 6-game margin, right? And had it not been for a surprisingly strong Commanders team, that take would be phenomenal right now. But also now I wish I had said that about the Bills because that's what's going to happen with the Bills. They're going to win this division and it's not even going to be close. I mean, they are so far ahead of everyone else in this division. It is insane right now.
5.5 games ahead of the Dolphins right now. Which is, I really don't.
Does not happen in the NFL.
No. I don't think it's. I know that a lot of people are talking about it. I don't think people appreciate what happened enough. The fact it's December 2nd right now, and we're talking about the Bills have clinched their division. It doesn't make sense. It is nearly impossible to do.
Like it's still confusing to me. I'm still like, okay. I guess we'll figure out the playoffs. I'm like, no, they're already in the playoffs. They're in the playoffs right now. Like it's insane because especially coming off of last year where they had to take it down to the wire to win the division and eventually steal the 2 seed from everyone else in that conference. But now it's just like, oh yeah, they'll probably end up as the 2 seed and they have a good shot at the 1 seed too. It's crazy that it's December 1st. It doesn't feel like this is what should be happening right now. It feels so strange yet so right. So right.
I honestly, I don't know how I'm going to feel going into like this Rams game and the next 5. There's still 5 games left. It's going to be so weird knowing like, yeah, we already made the playoffs. We already have a home game. No matter what happens, they could go 0-5 to end the season and we still have more football in Orchard Park. That's so wild. And Josh talked about the ability now to play free because they've already done that. But they do need to chase down this 1 seed. I think the 1 seed is still incredibly important. the one really, really fun thing with where the Bills are right now is if they want, week 18 can be their bye. If they need a bye, they can simply set up that week and say, hey, we're not playing anybody. That's our bye week. We'll go into the playoffs and we'll run through 3 straight games that way. So that is one super, super beneficial thing about clinching this early. I still think that this team can chase down that 1 seed. It's going to come down to them handling business in 4 games that they should win and trying to find a way to beat Detroit here in 2 weeks.
100%. 100%. Ariola Grande says, how fun was it to see James Cook, born and raised in Miami, absolutely fly at 21.7 miles per hour per next gen stats on a film of snow? I mean, once he hit that hole, he was gone. That was it. I mean, he didn't need to slow down. He didn't stumble or anything. He hit that hole. No one else could match that speed at those angles. And that's it. That was, and it was so funny because early on in this game, if you're someone who was on Twitter like I was, there were a lot of people early on who were like, I don't know if this is a James Cook game. This seems more like a Ray Davis, Ty Johnson type of game. And Ray Davis got the first touchdown, and Ray Davis and Ty Johnson both got their fair share of carries. But like James Cook, just, it didn't matter. Like, the reason why people were saying this because James Cook is more of that, like, one cut and get through the hole. And it's hard to make that one cut when you're trying to play in the snow, and especially this type of snow, because you're just slipping. I mean, we saw guys slipping just trying to get into motion on an offensive formation. But for the Bills and for James Cook, it doesn't really matter if you need to make that one cut or not, especially a hard cut, because the defensive line can't get any movement in this, and the offensive line can. So it doesn't really matter if you can make that one cut because the hole is that big. You don't need to really make big cuts or strong or sharp cuts. You just go. And when you have the speed of a James Cook, you just go.
Yeah, and you're spot on. Like, the trenches won this, right? Like, it's one thing to have a running back that can hit that speed that Cook hit, but opening those holes for him is the reason he was able to succeed so much last night. Because by the time he's at full speed at the line of scrimmage, Fred Warner still has to kind of get juiced up and follow where he's going. So you have a massive advantage in the snow as a running back if you can open a hole via the offensive line. And that's what we saw all night last night. Like, the 49ers have some good players in their back seven. Malik Mustafa, Fred Warner, those types of guys are good football players. But the Bills' offensive line just made it nearly impossible for them to do anything because the running backs were always running at full speed. It was a great game all around offensively for the Bills, who they only threw the ball 17 times or 18 times. I guess Mr. Trubisky did throw a pass, but that's all they needed to do. To some extent, it was similar to the Cowboys game last season where they're like, we can just run it the whole time.
Yes.
But when they did throw it, Josh was surgical in snowstorm. Like, they showed it from the field level. The snow was pretty wild. Not many quarterbacks can throw the ball through that weather.
No, they can't. That's what makes Josh Allen different. That's what makes him who he is. RJ makes a great point here. I love this. Be yourself with us is something that sets the Bills apart from almost every other organization. It's unique, and it's so true. Just Tip Canoe says, nobody ate yellow snow cones last night, I hope. What are you talking about? Lemon is the best flavor. I mean, I guess it's more of like a white. What is happening here?
Wait, aren't you Andre?
Why is my...
No, I'm shit.
I don't know what that is. I prefer blue. Blue is my favorite flavor.
Fair. Blue is a great flavor. Not the yeah. We might debate that later. Aaron Quinn of the Cover One Buffalo Show says that hoodie is fire, which it is, and also love Buffalo on the Brain getting repped. Also great. Staples of this show for you, honestly.
Oh yeah.
if you're not repping your 26 shirts shirt, by the way, which brings us to a great point, by the way. For those of you who are looking to support Cover One, if you like this show and other shows like it, and you want to talk to other people who are like us or are very different from us, there's a great place for you, and that is with Cover One Pass, folks. It is the best and most direct way to support us. It's $60 a year. Go to cover1.net. You get exclusive content. You get details. You get analysis. You get breakdowns. You get scouting reports. You get analytics. You get access to news before other people do. Maybe, maybe not. Who's to say? You would if you went to cover1.net and signed up for One Pass. It is the best $60 a year you'll spend on football all year. It is without a doubt just a great community of people that we have cultivated on Discord. There's all sorts of channels for food, for pets, for random stuff, for politics if you enjoy that. And of course, tons of football talk. It's the best $60 you'll spend on football. It just is. There's no other way of putting it other than that. If you enjoy the Bills or if you're just a football fan in general, this is one of the best places you will find out there for good discussion and good people. It's tough to beat. $60 a year. Go to cover1.net, sign up today. And thank you to those who are with One Pass and support us directly in that way. It is always very helpful. We really appreciate all of you for being there. So sign up today, $60 a year, cover1.net. Sign up today. All right, moving back. Man, it's just what a game. What a great game. What a great time. What a great time to be alive. It's just awesome. Walter S. says, winning the division when you've only played half of your division games is crazy. We have a whole series of division games with the Patriots still. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy because part of me looking at the schedule initially when it came out was like, okay, 3 straight games to end the season in the division. Patriots, Jets, Patriots. Maybe the Jets are in the playoffs at that point. Who knows? But the Patriots are probably not going to be very good. But we discussed before the season started, like, the Patriots will probably start off poorly, but there might be a chance for them to kind of put things together down the stretch. And so it was like, you can't take the Patriots for granted that late into the season. Now it just doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, I thought of it like we might need to chase down the Dolphins or the Jets. There might be some need to do that. So I was excited that we had 3 divisional games because we could catch up on tiebreakers if we needed to. So you could have Josh put that cape on and go win 3 games and sneak, or not sneak into the playoffs, but yet again go steal that division title. Turns out none of it matters because they win the division title with 5 games remaining without even playing the New England Patriots this season. Just astounding. And also, I'll throw out there just one quick kind of stat I just found because I was interested in this. The Bills, who have been kind of trolled for not being able to beat anyone all season, prior to the Chiefs game, that was a big talking point, and still seemingly is. Among the division leaders in the AFC, they currently have the best strength of victory. So they've beaten the teams with the best records among Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and Houston. So to some extent, it's like couldn't beat anybody, but seemingly have beat more than anyone else.
Yeah. So
it's
great.
Yeah.
Ralph Wilson Sr. from the grave says Cook looked like Shady in the snow. I mean, it was just so crazy seeing him just take off on that long touchdown run. I mean, it was phenomenal. Just absolutely amazing. RJ says, my 3-year subscriberversary was last August. It's an awesome community. It is one of our long-term subscribers and members of One Pass. Can't ask for much more than that. We appreciate your support, RJ. Chill Will says, Schrager and Bill Simmons hate the Bills. Well, that's good because I hate Bill Simmons too.
Yeah.
Obnoxious. Man. Ariel Grande also says Bill Simmons has been glazing them lately, but he is a Pats fan. Hate is healthy there. Yeah, it's just crazy seeing how dominant this team has been, how clear as day everyone was willing to just write them off right before the season started. Just say, whatever, it is what it is. They're just not going to be good enough, which is just a crazy thing to think about when most of those same people were probably saying, hey, Josh Allen is probably the second best quarterback in the NFL. And it's like, how are you saying both of these things? This roster was not that bad just on paper. There were certainly question marks. We obviously had question marks about wide receiver in particular, right? But like, it was not so bad that when you have the second best quarterback in the NFL, that you should be sitting here saying, oh yeah, they're going to end up like third in that division. It just doesn't make any sense. Like we're not talking about the Bengals here, who like if they had any semblance of a defense, Joe Burrow would be in this MVP conversation right now, but they don't, and he's not. And whether that's fair or not is up for discussion. But the reality is, like, the Bengals defense just coming into the season, it was kind of like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what they're expecting to have happen here. And lo and behold, they friggin' suck. Like, which, okay, you brought up the division leaders, right? You brought up the Chiefs, you brought up the Texans, you brought up the Steelers. So the Chiefs just have black magic around them, right? There's no other good explanation around it. They just have won too many games through seemingly inexplicable means. The Texans are, I mean, if there's a take that we were like almost dead on about, it was the Houston Texans. They made lateral moves. Their one major upgrade was Stephon Diggs, and that's kind of it. And now Stephon Diggs is no longer there, and that's not their fault, obviously. That's just something that happens. But this team is basically the same team as last year. Mm-hmm. And they're struggling to be dominant in games, even in games where they're playing the friggin' Jaguars, who are awful. And you have Azeez Al-Shaair, who for most of this season has spent a lot of time just trying to annihilate dudes unnecessarily. And what's funny is, and I know you kind of countered this yesterday because somebody was trying to point out the hit he had on Caleb Williams early in the season, mm-hmm. which was like, that's a false equivalency. That was Caleb Williams was inbounds when he got hit. The problem with that play was the fact that Al-Shaair jumped up and then punched Roschon Johnson for no reason. Just no reason. He wasn't involved in any of this. But even last week when the Texans were playing the Titans, there's a play of him just going right after Tony Pollard when he's well out of bounds. Yeah. Well out of bounds. So this is not, and this is a captain for their team. The vibes are bad in Houston right now, even though they won that game yesterday. It's getting really tight for them. Like, you can feel that sort of tension that's in that building right now. And then with the Steelers, this is how you know the Bengals defense is this bad.
Oh, yeah.
When is the last time a Steelers team scored 40 points?
I saw that, the stat. I think it's 2018, was it?
Was it really?
I think it was 2018.
Okay, so like I saw that, and I was like, I genuinely can't think of a time that the Steelers scored more than 40 points in a game. The fact that they did that to that Bengals defense is just like, if that's not a big enough sign for you as an organization, the Bengals, to say we need to do something, or like the mistakes that were clearly mistakes that we made along the way here, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that was just like mind-boggling to me. That Russell Wilson was just slicing and dicing them. And Najee Harris and Jalen Warren and all that. It's just like, this is bad. Just bad. Bad Bengals. Bad Tigers.
Yeah, the Steelers had, in 2018, they scored 52 points against the Carolina Panthers. Ben Roethlisberger had 330 yards in five touchdowns. That's a long time ago, though. That's a long time ago. Yeah.
The stadium has Antonio Brown was still on that team.
He very well might have been. Yes, he was. He was still on the team. He had 96 yards and a touchdown.
We're talking about a pretty long time to not do that. And they let the Steelers do that. It is crazy. This is another great stat. Thank you to Sespenar for bringing this up. Bengals are the first franchise in history to lose 4 games where they scored 33 plus points in a season. That is absurd. Yeah, absurd. Absolutely insane.
I will say the one joy I do get in this, and Joe Burrow should, like, the MVP is so freaking stupid and it pisses me off.
Yes.
Joe Burrow should be in the conversation. Like, he legitimately should be, but he's not because of the team is really, really bad. But the one thing like benefit I do get from this is for years I've had to listen to Bengals fans talk about how Joe Burrow is better than Josh Allen because they made it to a Super Bowl and Josh Allen hasn't made it to a Super Bowl. And now the Bengals fans are like, well, what is Joe Burrow supposed to do? The defense can't stop anybody. And it's like, yo, that's what we've been trying to tell you about Josh Allen, why he hasn't been to a Super Bowl, is it's not him, it's the other issues that at play. So I think Bengals fans are starting to understand that a little bit. Not that they'll ever come to the side of Josh is better than Joe, nor would I expect them to, because I wouldn't go that direction either. But it's been an incredible. I felt legitimately bad for Joe Burrow in the post-game press conference yesterday. They asked him about the playoffs, and he's like so frustrated. He's like, playoffs are the furthest thing from my mind. Like we just have to keep. I feel bad for him. I feel legitimately bad for him.
And I think somebody asked Jamar Chase, or maybe it was Burrow as well. I don't know, can't remember. But somebody asked somebody on the Bengals offense, like, do you feel like you have to go out there and score every time you're out there?
It was Chase.
And they're like, yeah, and it's like, that's what they do. That's what they have to do, and they don't do a bad job of it either. That's the worst part. Like, and this is what's great. This is why Burrow should be in the MVP conversation. The defense sucks. We know that for sure. This run game is like fine. Like Chase Brown has his moments, right? When Zach Moss was healthy, he had his moments on occasion, but for the most part, it's not that different of a run game in terms of production and output and value than it has been in previous years. Burrow's just on a different level. Like his ability to process and be accurate and make smart decisions is so much better than so many other quarterbacks in the NFL. It's just crazy that this team is squandering such an amazing season from a quarterback that they clearly love, but not enough to help him. It's malpractice. It's borderline criminal at this point. It's so bad. It's just so bad.
There's 3 quarterbacks in the NFL right now playing at an otherworldly level to some extent. And that's Lamar Jackson, that's Josh Allen, and that's Joe Burrow. Those 3 this season are playing at such a different level than anybody else. And I know that pundits want to interject Jared Goff into the conversation. He doesn't belong in the conversation. Like, he's having a good season, good for Jared Goff, but he's not doing nearly what Josh, Lamar, and Joe are doing. It's been phenomenal to watch those 3 just absolutely dominate this year. And also somewhat phenomenal to watch Patrick Mahomes just be like a middling quarterback this season, which is so – this is the second straight regular season where Patrick Mahomes has been like, for the regular season, as those other 3 quarterbacks just dominate.
Yep. And this is a great question by Roy Collins. Why are we still calling Josh Allen the second best quarterback in the league? To be fair to myself, I said that past tense when referring to like how analysts were kind of talking about the Bills coming into the season. Right now, I don't think you could possibly say for this season that Mahomes is playing better than Allen, because I think that's ridiculous. And people who say that are just basically clinging on to the fact that they think he will perform better in the playoffs. And maybe that's the case, but right now he's not playing the same level of football that Josh Allen is playing. He's just not. And it's not like the Chiefs situation is perfect either, right? Their receivers are still a little bit messy. DeAndre Hopkins has helped provide some level of consistency. Noah Gray has really come on for them as a receiving option, and Kelsey is still capable of being an underneath option and that sort of stuff. And he's still smart enough to be able to get himself open. But Xavier Worthy has just been very frustrating for them because they're kind of like splitting him between these 2 roles where they want him to be a deep threat, but he's not getting the timing right with Mahomes. And we're in December now. Like, that timing is probably just not happening this year. Right. And that sucks for them, but that's the reality. But they're also kind of using him as this, fun gadgety sort of player. Right. And part of me feels like had Hollywood Brown been healthy for this season, he would have been that deep threat that he probably would have had better timing with, I would think. and you would have just been able to use Xavier Worthy however you wanted. You didn't feel like you wouldn't need to force him into a particular role that you probably weren't expecting to use him in right off the bat. And so it's just been a little discombobulated for the Chiefs, and I understand that. And their tackle play, which we highlighted before the season started, sucks. And guess what? It's December. It still sucks.
Yep.
But they are still generally in a good position because they can still run the ball, so they can get into third and manageable situations more often than not. And Mahomes, because he can evade and throw from really awkward angles, prevents negative plays from happening a lot. But you're still in a position where he's not playing as well as Josh Allen is. That's just the fact right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd put, Lamar, Joe, and Josh well ahead of Patrick Mahomes on this season. Hell, I'd probably put Justin Herbert ahead of Patrick Mahomes this season, and I'm not a big
fair.
Justin Herbert fan. So there's a lot of players you can put ahead of Mahomes in this regular season. When it comes to which quarterback is playing the best, I will say one thing. I do give him a lot of grief, and because Ravens fans drive me crazy. Lamar has been playing at an absurd level this season. Like, he's been ridiculous to a point where I'm like, this is unsustainable, except he keeps sustaining it. The one difference I see and why I put Josh at the top of that list is, like, if you look at the cast of characters that Josh is dealing with on the offensive side of the ball, in my opinion, it's from a talent perspective, it's lesser than what Cincinnati has. It's lesser than what Baltimore has as well. And Josh is still finding ways to win with these guys. Like, I'm pretty sure Mac Hollins leads the team in receiving touchdowns.
Probably.
Which, if that is true, that's pretty wild. Not that Mac Hollins is a bad wide receiver, but he's far
He should not
from
be leading your team in touchdown receptions, though.
No, he's not. He's no Mark Andrews or Zay Flowers or Jamar Chase or Travis. Like, he's nowhere near that level. Yet Josh and this offense, seemingly with this everybody eats mentality, it works. It's just working. And now Amari's getting healthier, and the rapport is clearly building with Josh Allen. Keon will be back soon. Dalton Kincaid will be back. It's really, really exciting what this offense could be, because what it's been this entire season is elite, and they're only getting healthier right now.
Yeah, it's just crazy how good this team is and how well Allen is playing. All right. Here's the thing. Normally we're a little more organized, not a lot more organized, but a little more organized than we are right now. But the fact is, Uber tends to do our show notes, and Uber had a lot of fun last night. So, we're at where we're at right now. So we're gonna talk about Taylor Rapp, because I said we were gonna talk about Taylor Rapp, and we're gonna talk about Taylor Rapp right now. So we mentioned Taylor Rapp earlier in the sense that he signed in 2023, was basically told, and we know that he was told this to some extent because he kind of alluded to it in his introductory press conference about his future with the team, which was kind of interesting and telling because he had only signed a 1-year contract at that point. So clearly he was told something to the effect of, we will have you on a 1-year deal. We want to see how you fit in this defense, how you play in this defense, how you process in this defense, all that sort of stuff. Hyde employer will be the starting guys. If one of them gets hurt, obviously you go in, but whatever. And Taylor Rapp obviously made one very memorable play at the end of the season to clinch the division for the Bills. And then they signed him to a 3-year deal in the offseason. And the reception around that was very surprising to me. One, because I thought it was kind of general knowledge, that he was going to be the future one of the future starting safeties of this team. And so when people were like, "What? Why is this happening? Why are they doing this?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, pay attention first of all. Sign up for Cover One Pass. You might get this conversation more. But the other thing was just like, this is a solid player. Like, this is somebody that, like, when I think people think of Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, they only think of their time when they came at Buffalo, which, if you're a Bills fan, is fair, right? Like, I get not paying attention to every single team or every single player outside of Buffalo. That I get it. That's fine. But when those two guys came to the Bills, neither of those guys were all pro, or even Pro Bowl, or even like considered high level players for those positions. Like Jordan Poyer had carved out a nice career for himself to that point because he was a 7th round pick and had bounced around to a couple different teams and finally kind of found some sort of niche. Whereas Micah Hyde was this like utility, do it all in the back end sort of player, had played in the nickel for Green Bay, played deep, played up front. Like he'd done a lot of different things. He was a punt returner for them. So when they signed both of those guys, it was kind of like, okay, this is a nice little pairing of guys to kind of set the floor for your team on the back end. And then it was just like, oh, both of these guys are great. Both of these guys have ended up being great. And I think that the perception of them has kind of just changed with that. And to me, it was just sort of the same sort of thing with Taylor Rapp. Like when he got signed, it was like, okay, this is what they do. They take guys who are not like super high end names or whatever. Like this was not the Ravens signing Marcus Williams from the Saints, right? Which has not really worked out. If I remember correctly, he was not even active in yesterday's game against the Eagles, which is not great for them. It's a rough look. But for the Bills, right? I mean, they went into the season, they did what they normally do, right? They get guys to fill out the roster so they don't have any clear glaring holes on the team going into the season. They overestimated how well they thought of the receiving options going into the season, and they corrected that by trading for Amari Cooper, which has worked out well. With the safeties, though, there should have been more confidence in this group, if only because Sean McDermott and Bobby Babich and just this defensive staff as a whole has always been good at getting the most out of those guys. And they're doing it again with Taylor Rapp and Damar Hamlin, who should have had his 3rd interception.
Yeah.
And that illegal contact was a bunch of bull. And it's so maddening that happened. But whatever. It is what it is. But they also took Cole Bishop in the 2nd round. And would I have liked to see Cole Bishop more often this season? I guess. But also, what am I complaining about? It's not like Damar Hamlin has been bad, despite what some people are trying to tell you. Taylor Rapp has been very good and has made several incredible plays. Taylor Rapp has saved this team's ass multiple times this season.
Yep. That's spot on. I mean, you look at this game, he had that shoestring tackle on, I think, Christian McCaffrey to save a touchdown. You go to that Jets game, he had 3 separate plays where he essentially saved a touchdown. He had the one in the end zone where I forgot the receiver he ended up hitting and knocking the ball.
It was Wilson.
Garrett Wilson, yeah. He's having one of those years where he's not going to get the recognition from nationally. And I'm not saying he should be an all-pro. That being said, I also haven't really, perused the landscape of safeties this year and have a really good poll on which safeties have been great and which safeties have been bad. But he should be in at least the conversation as a Pro Bowl safety. He's been really, really good for this team against the run, against the pass. He deserves so many more flowers than he's getting. Like he's very rarely talked about from a Bills fan perspective and from a national perspective. I don't think you ever hear Taylor Rapp's name. But he's been phenomenal for this team. And coming into this season, the one thing I had tweeted out, and I got ripped by some Bills fans for this, and actually a couple of Dolphins fans as well. I kept saying, I was like, I think that the Bills could be better at safety in 2024 than they were in 2023. Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer were still decent players, but they clearly weren't the players they were during their early days in Buffalo, where they were both all-pro caliber safeties, and we were spoiled for years and years and years with their level of play. 2023 was a different story, and now in 2024, with the way the defense was built and where speed was becoming a little bit more important, I thought, well, with Taylor Rapp and then in my head, Cole Bishop or Mike Edwards, this safety duo could be better. But they have been better to some extent. Yeah. And Damar Hamlin is the other, and that's the other thing too. Just briefly on Damar Hamlin, there's still a weird subset of Bills fans that want to pretend like he's terrible, and I don't. It all comes back to this like idea of he got the spotlight, so now people hate him for literally no reason whatsoever when he actually used that spotlight so well and did it basically as flawless as any human could. And he's playing really good football against the pass and against the run. He made a tackle yesterday. He had like a huge open field tackle, I think, on Christian McCaffrey or Jordan Mason or somebody. He's been very good for the Bills too. And this concept that he's terrible is just a delusional thing. So you have Taylor Rapp, you have DeMar Hamlin. The Bills have at worst, an average safety duo in the NFL. And I would argue that they're better than average.
I agree. And yeah, the punch out that he had on use check before the goal line was great. Just this is exactly what they wanted from Taylor Rapp coming into the season. This is exactly how he should be playing. He's playing at a high level. He's providing leadership on the back end. And what else do you want? I mean, what else do you want from this guy? He's playing at a high level. I don't know how else to put this other than he is a good player. He's been a good player. This was always the right move when they made it. This was a great decision that has clearly worked out for them. Get on board, people. It's just this is a great thing that we have going right now for this team. Is having somebody like Taylor Rapp doing what he does right now.
And that contract, I have the contract up right now. It's awesome. Brandon signed him to a 3-year deal. His cap hit this year is under $3 million. It goes up a little bit in 2025. It goes up to 3.7, and then in 2026 it's 4. They're playing a safety that, in my opinion, is playing at a minimum Pro Bowl level this season. That most his contract will be is $4 million in 2026, and he's still only 27 years old. Like, they're paying him pennies compared to a lot of other safeties in the NFL. Like, literally, that is such a low contract for the caliber of play he's offered. The Bills essentially found a diamond in the rough, but he also wasn't in the rough because he was a decent player for the Rams that I still don't understand how they got him to sign with the contract they did last season, and then to double down on it and get him to sign this contract. It goes back to the start of this discussion where we said culture and all of that matters. Like, he wanted to be in Buffalo. Like, that mattered to him. And I think to some extent the Bills got a team-friendly deal out of it.
Yeah. Roy Collins says they got what they wanted out of Rapp, not so much out of Mike Edwards. Hey, listen, I get that. And I was somebody that was kind of confused and a little not perturbed, but just more confused than anything else that DeMar Hamlin was starting over Mike Edwards. I think we both assumed that Mike Edwards would be starting out the gate. We weren't shocked that we felt like DeMar Hamlin could be in that conversation as well. But it was just like, okay, this is interesting. But Mike Edwards, got cut before the trade deadline. They couldn't move him as a trade partner. And then he went to the Titans. Then he left the Titans and is now on the Bucs. So there's something else there that's probably not football related. I don't know what it is. I'm not implying I know what it is. But when something like that happens, especially for a team like the Titans at that point of the season that was kind of looking for anything to help them, it's something else is happening there. And I don't know what it is. And I hope it's not anything crazy or serious or anything like that. But, they couldn't get what they wanted out of him. And it sucks that they couldn't, but it wasn't a lot of money. It wasn't a crazy loss for them. And it's not like he was starting, and that's part of why he wanted to get cut. He wanted to go to a place where he was going to start. So it is what it is, and it sucks that they couldn't get what they wanted out of him, but they're still in a good position now. And, bringing up Cole Bishop, right, who I think we all kind of assumed at some point he would be taking over this safety position from Hamlin or Edwards or whoever, hasn't yet for whatever reason. But he also showed up yesterday making a couple of special teams tackle and forcing a fumble on one of those kickoffs.
Yeah, he's been good. He's been legitimately good on special teams too. And like, he gets some time on defense. He got time when there was those injuries, and then he gets time in garbage time. I think of Cole Bishop in the same manner to some extent. I think about Kyer Elam, but there's like a little minor update on Elam. But one of the biggest gripes people had was they're like, oh, Elam was a terrible pick, which probably was in hindsight. But Christian Benford was just way better than he was. And that's a really good thing. And to some extent, like, I think people might be looking at the Cole Bishop pick and having similar thoughts, though it's his first year. DeMar Hamlin's just playing really good football right now. And Taylor Rapp's playing really good football right now. It's not that Cole Bishop would be a disaster if you put him in, although in that Texans game, he did blow the concept when Nico Collins scored the touchdown. But that's what rookies do. So to some extent, this is a good year for Cole Bishop to learn. Let him learn under Hamlin and Rapp and work with Bobby Babich and work with Sean McDermott. And then next year, he'll have another shot to go take a starting role, and maybe next year's his year if they don't re-sign, say, somebody like DeMar Hamlin. But right now on special teams, he's been important. And like you said, he forced a fumble yesterday. He had 2 tackles. He's having an acceptable rookie season considering what he's playing behind right now.
Yeah, and it's always interesting when a team like the Bills take somebody like Cole Bishop that high, because they get so much out of these sort of low value guys like a DeMar Hamlin or even a Taylor Rapp, that it's always significant when they go after somebody with a valuable asset.
Mm-hmm.
So Cole Bishop will be the starting or the future starting safety of this team. It's just a matter of when. And maybe it's not this year. Fine. That's fine. Safety is not a problem with this team right now. So there's no rush. There's no like push to try and like get him on the field, and they're just not doing it. It's just that things are working right now.
Mm-hmm.
And why would you sort of upset the ecosystem for no reason? You don't have a problem. Don't create one. You know, just
Yes.
just leave it be. Everything will be fine. Everything is fine right now. So just really great. I'm very, very happy with that. As RJ brings up here as well, Bishop and Andreessen have been great on special teams as well, which is always great. Man, Joe Andreessen, he's still on this team.
He's still sticking around, man.
And he's playing well on special teams. Like, that's just cool. What a cool story, man. Again, vibes. Big part of it.
I do wonder, you know, now that the Bills have clinched, right? So they have this locked in, this division title. I wonder if you see a player like Cole Bishop get a little more run here in the next 5 weeks. If Buffalo's like, hey, we can put him in, let's get him some experience, let's make sure our guys stay healthy. I wonder if you start to see a little more Bishop for that reason.
Well, clearly Spin 0481 wants to see some of that. So there should be this is what he says, there should be a rush to get him experience before the playoffs. I don't know if there's, I mean, sure, why not? I don't know. I have no super strong feelings about this either way. I understand the thought process of like, hey, you know, if God forbid one of these guys does go down, you're going to have to put Cole Bishop into this lineup, and you would want him to feel a little more comfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I get that. I don't know if I necessarily need to be like, you know, pushing this, but if they're going against the Rams and it's going well into the fourth quarter, like, yeah, put him in. If it's these Patriots games, right, you know, like, might be a good opportunity, especially the last game where maybe that game doesn't matter for seeding or anything like that. Yeah, throw him in there. It's fine. But it's in terms of like trying to win right now, you don't need to do anything to upset the ecosystem, so to speak. So
Yep.
All right, what else we got? Got plenty of other stuff we could talk about, honestly. Let's see. Just so the Josh Allen play.
Yeah.
The play where he threw and caught his own touchdown, technically. Truly technically, because that is apparently how that's scored, which doesn't really make any sense to me, but whatever. It's just so. First of all, I think something that gets lost in this whole discussion on that play is that's a great catch by Amari Cooper.
Oh my God.
Because that's not a great ball. It's behind and it's in the elements. It's probably hard to even see where the ball is going. And he just reaches behind him and, you know, brings it back to him. And every time I watch that, I'm always surprised that the refs don't call Amari Cooper like forward progress, plays over, you know, because they're pushing it back. He's not moving forward at all. He's facing backwards. He's got the ball in his hands. They're pushing him backwards towards the line of scrimmage. Josh Allen just comes up and is like, here. Give me. And Cooper hasn't been here long enough to be like, no, Josh, no. He's just like, yeah, here, take it. And he grabs it, breaks a tackle, and Superman dives like he's a rookie going against Minnesota. It's amazing.
Dude, it's every week with like, I just have to remind myself how spoiled we are every single week that like he does this stuff and it's like, oh, that's Josh Allen. That's what he does. And then you go watch other games and you're like, this is so boring right now. But what an incredible, like Amari Cooper's been here for a minute, right? He hasn't even had a cup of coffee here yet. And for him to basically trust his ability to get that ball to Josh and also trust Josh that, the awareness it was just one of those plays where to some extent it doesn't make sense. And I hope they don't do it again. And I will say they did show the sideline, them talking about it. And I swear Keon Coleman has thoughts in his head that he should not be having right now. When he was talking to Josh Allen, you can see it going through his head like, oh, okay. Yeah, we could do that. We could do that. I am a little worried about Keon when he gets back on the field, but that play was so freaking awesome. And it's crazy that it comes, obviously 2 weeks, but a week after Josh has the 4th and 2 run for 26 yards and a touchdown.
Yes.
Like it's just more highlights in a season full of highlights for what I would argue is the best player in the NFL right now. Phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, what he's doing right now at the quarterback position is not just great in general. It's so different, yet so similar to what he's done his career to this point, where he has seemingly found the right balance between chaos and harmony, I guess. And it's so impressive seeing him take this step forward and making the adjustments that he's needed to make. It's just a testament to not just him, but also to Joe Brady as an offensive coordinator, as a teacher and a communicator that, it sucks to say. I'd rather he didn't, but it feels pretty inevitable that Joe Brady's going to be coaching somewhere else next season. And it sucks, but that's probably what's going to end up happening. But we should very much enjoy the fact that the development that Josh Allen has had right now is just fantastic. And to have it happen in his 7th season, where he's also not even finished with his 7th season and breaking Jim Kelly's touchdown record for career touchdowns with the Bills. Like, we're talking about a player that will probably never have his touchdown record ever broken.
Yeah.
Because of how quickly he's done this and how much more time he probably has in his career. And it's just crazy that someone like that is incredible.
He should get over 500 on his career, right? He's at 248 right now. So I'd presume against the Rams he'll get 2. So he'll get to 250, and he's not even done with the 7th season in the NFL. Like that, he's going to be the fastest at 250 in his tenure. Mahomes did get to 250, I think, last week. So Mahomes did beat Allen to 250. Granted, he's been in the NFL technically a season longer. But Josh's ability just on the ground, through the air this season, it's been on full display, and it really does spit in the face of the people that said he was a touchdown vulture, as he still has 27 touchdowns. Some people might say 26, but he has 27 touchdowns this season, and he's doing it in all these different ways, including catching one. I'd also say too, and I just looked this up, he ranks in the NFL right now 2nd in EPA as a ball carrier. 2nd in total EPA as a ball carrier. He has a higher EPA than Derrick Henry as a ball carrier. He's carried the ball 67 times. Derrick Henry's carried it 221 times.
So he's 2nd in EPA.
Jalen Hurts is 1st.
Jalen Hurts is 1st.
It's the touchdowns. But
which is funny because EPA kind of discounts touchdowns.
I think so. But 11 rushing touchdowns for him. So nonetheless, Josh ranking second, ranking ahead of Derrick Henry, ranking ahead of Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs,
Yeah.
As a runner. It's so wild.
This is not what quarterbacks are supposed to do.
No.
And he does it while also being a good quarterback. It's crazy. Charles G says Josh Allen has 2 career receptions and 3 receiving touchdowns. That's so. I think that's true. Because he had the 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, the one in the playoffs.
One in the playoffs, one against Arizona, and then he had this one receiving touchdown.
So he averages 1.5 receiving touchdowns per catch.
The article headline was right. The Bills are proving math wrong.
Well, yeah, the article was right, and then they changed the damn title.
They changed the headline. It's amazing. Oh man, that's crazy. Just what can you say about a guy like that? He's awesome. Yeah. Again, early on, the talk about Josh Allen has been the main thing because of the highlights and just how well he actually did play, obviously. But this running back room, I said it early in the game, this is just such a great group of running backs. I mean, James Cook brings that speed, and he's physical enough where you're not like, he's not some scat back, right? Mm-hmm. This is somebody who can take 20 carries a game or so. But when Ray Davis gets on the field, there are times where he is just a load to handle and is very difficult to bring down. And Ty Johnson is just all around just solid across the board and is probably their best pass protector as a running back. And so all of these guys bring value in different ways, and they're all so complementary to each other. It's just so cool seeing this running back room with this offensive line that is really, really good. Just a great combination happening on the ground right now.
Yeah, they found complements to every single thing they needed, right? Like you said, James Cook, he's not a bruiser per se, though he can bruise if he needs to. But his speed was obviously on display yesterday. Ray Davis is the thumper, he can thump. And Ty Johnson's such an underrated part of this roster too. He's not your typical third running back. He's an important cog in this offensive machine. And there's points where he has to play more snaps than the other two because, like you said, he's the better pass protector. So if they need somebody else in there, you sit Ty Johnson back there and let him protect Josh Allen. The Bills built a really, really good running back room that fits what this team is trying to do so well. And then you talk about the offensive line that Aaron Cromer has just coached up to such an extreme. I was thinking about this today. Like, I don't even because you never hear his name, which is a good thing. Like David Edwards is our left guard. You never hear his name. He's playing well this season. Connor McGovern, for all our fears of the step back from Mitch Morris and our concerns that there would be issues with the snap, that just never happened. Like, he's just been really good at center. Osiris Torrance continues to get better. Spencer Brown is ascending. Deion Dawkins is an all-pro level left hand. Like, the Bills built a machine, and I think going into that game, in that snow game yesterday, there's some fear of like, man, this Bills team, they always play weird games on the snow, and they don't seem like they're ready to win in the trenches. Well, they disproved that. Granted, the 49ers aren't great in the trenches right now, but the Bills were just so dominant on both sides of the ball that it ended the game. The game was over once those two lines heated up for Buffalo.
Yep. Going back to some of the coaching, T-Dobbs says here, some teams are offering coordinators big contracts to stay with their current teams. It's one way to hang on to their coaches. Would Pagula do that? Who knows? For some coaches that would probably work, but I think with other people, like, the opportunity to become a head coach comes and goes very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, when we talked about the Bengals defense earlier and Lou Anarumo being a big name for a hot minute there, and he was like the second guy for the Arizona Cardinals job before they hired Jonathan Gannon. And now we're probably looking at Lou Anarumo probably being fired from the Bengals by the end of the season. Maybe. It's the Bengals. Who knows what they'll do. But, like, it's when you get that opportunity, it's hard to just say, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, that's a hard thing to pass up on. Like, not everyone can be Ben Johnson, who just like passes up on the Panthers job a couple
Yeah.
of years ago because he doesn't like David Tepper, which good for him for doing that. Or passing up on the Washington job because they're not giving him enough commitment or money or whatever it was, right? Or because he just wanted to go to Chicago, apparently, which he now has an opportunity to do if he really wanted to, and if the Bears really wanted to. Which, but side note, why are they keeping Ryan Poles? Is he not just as culpable for the state of the Bears right now?
That Bears team is so poorly run. I think they do everything wrong.
They come to two, honestly. Yeah, it's so I don't know if that's really going to happen. I just assume Joe Brady's probably gone, which sucks, but it's probably what's going to happen.
I think both Joe Brady and Bobby Babich are going to get interviews. I don't think Bobby Babich will get picked up, but he's going to get interviews because this defense has overperformed people's expectations. Joe Brady, though, could legitimately get a job, which, like you said, that sucks. That being said, I think the Bills, to some extent, learned the lesson of the Ken Dorsey era. I'm hoping that they have a plan, and it might be who's the guy behind him? Who's the quarterback coach right now?
It's
Ronald Curry.
Yes.
So we could see there. Maybe there's something with Ronald Curry. There's some benefit, but Brady probably taking a job somewhere.
It'll be interesting to see if Joe Brady does leave, what that coordinator search will look like, because there's no like Ronald Curry would be the next guy up, I guess, but that's not a guarantee either. Yeah. So I don't know. It would be interesting to see.
They can have anyone they want. They can literally
honestly. Charles Shee brings up another great point. I think one of the more underrated moves was the addition of Cromer and the improvement of the offensive line. When they were looking for a new offensive line coach, because Bobby Johnson went with Brian Daboll to the Giants, I think I actually did an episode with Greg and Aaron Greg and Anthony on Disguised Coverage, I want to say, talking about just sort of who they might bring in as the next offensive line coach. And, I was like, okay, who has Ken Dorsey played with? Who has he coached with? Like, who are guys that might get brought in? And I had a short list of people, like 3 or 4 guys. And I was like, I feel pretty confident in these being guys just because of association. And in the back of my mind, I was like, if Aaron Cromer's out there, right? Like, if you just, this is the type of team that can bring in a superstar coach if they really want to. And I was like, no, I don't think they'll do that. And then they ended up doing it. I was like, hate that I didn't say that. I still think about that I was like this close to just mentioning it. I would have given myself credit for it, but I didn't. And now I bring it up 3 years later after the fact. But yeah, it's just it really is one of the best coaching moves that they made, because it's not just about improving the technique of the offensive line, which obviously has happened. It's about just getting the knowledge from him about the run game in particular, right? Like, even though Ken Dorsey was not someone that worked out as an offensive coordinator, one of the things that did improve from Daboll to Dorsey was the run game. The problem with Dorsey was that he never stuck to the run game, even when it was working. So with Cromer, the run game clearly improved because he just brings this incredible depth and width of knowledge, because he's been in the NFL for so long, and he's been under coaches like Sean Payton and Sean McVay, who, I mean, talk about coaches that you can just write stacks of books with their offensive knowledge just between the two of them. And Aaron Cromer has worked for both of them. And getting that knowledge to this team and coaching up those guys to be in that offense and to improve the run game that way is so critical to getting this team where it is now, where when a snow game happens, you can run the ball and be dominant and also throw the ball because you have Josh Allen.
Yeah. Ultimate trump card. And credit to the Bills for building a great coaching, room, or great set of coaches. And when you go back to that prior to Cromer, I don't know if it was on this show or I wrote it somewhere. And it was joking, but I was like, go find Dante Scarnecchia and give him $1 billion. I don't care. Get him here. We need somebody that can make this offensive line better, because it's not good enough. Aaron Cromer did that. Like, he's legitimately did that. And it's fun to watch the young guys get better. So like it's the one thing that it works in the games, each and every individual game, but to see each of those young guys, Osiris Torrance and Spencer Brown in particular, continue to improve, like that's just as important because it future proofs this team. In a couple years, Brown's already re-signed. Also, Osaibo, they'll re-sign as a right guard. They'll have to pay him crazy money. But they've basically solidified this offensive line to a point where Josh Allen, who already is great at avoiding sacks, now is almost never sacked. He's been sacked 13 times this season. That's all. That's insane. That's insane. That's literally insane.
It's just how they have rebuilt this team over time, where it's not just been, bring it down one season and we'll take our lumps and then we'll bring it back up. It's just like, no, we'll just sort of over the course of a couple seasons, we'll do what we need to do. And they have, and it's so impressive. It's just incredibly impressive. I cannot overstate how good this team has been because of that particular move. It's so critical. All right. We are now we've literally just gone back and forth with zero organization, and I'm totally okay with that. Not complaining.
Okay, good.
We did exactly what I wanted to do today, honestly. Anything else you want to talk about before we start to get out of here?
I guess one name just like Greg Rousseau. He's dominating right now. And to see him yesterday, he had another 3 tackles for a loss. Like the sack number's not big. He has just 6.5 sacks this season. But I think right now, I think he has 15 tackles for a loss. He's affecting both portions of the offense, whether you're running, whether you're passing. Groot is the one guy on the defensive line that I trust on every single play to make a play. And he's been critical to the Bills' ability to contain offenses in both those facets because their back 7, they can trust. Like I trust the corners. I trust the safeties. I trust the linebackers. Matt Milano will get his feet under him. He didn't play a great game yesterday, but it was awesome to see him back. As he starts to get back into the flow of things, I think Milano will be great. But Groot is the one guy in the trenches where I'm like, yeah, he's the one that'll dominate. I just need one of the other 3 to step up.
Yeah. Rousseau continues to be fantastic, and doing that in a contract year is obviously, good for him. And I'm at a point now where I don't want to say whatever it takes to re-sign Greg Rousseau because there is a money limit.
Yeah.
Just at some point. That being said, you gotta find a way to keep Greg Rousseau. They would be fools to let Greg Rousseau out of the building. Like I understood letting Tremaine Edmonds go because of the money, right?
Yeah.
Like he got a lot of money to go to Chicago, but with Rousseau, it would be like the Giants owner talking about Saquon Barkley, right? Just like, I'm not going to sleep well if he's not playing for this team. Like you have a really, really good young player. You got to find a way to keep him, man. You have to find a way to keep him.
It's going to cost 20, it's going to be over 20 million. That's going to be the number,
for sure.
Which is, yeah.
It sucks, but you got to do it.
You got to,
in my opinion, got to do it. Just a really great player. Has really started to come into his own this year. Seems like this is the healthiest he's been probably since he was a rookie, which is why he's playing as well as he has, quite frankly. Defensive backs were great all game. Taylor Rapp, we already talked about. Christian Benford on that return was great. Matt Milano, just so cool to have him back. I was surprised at how many snaps he played in this game. And there weren't like a lot of defensive snaps for him to play in this game, but he played basically all of them, like until the fourth quarter where they just were pulling starters. A normal thing to do in an NFL regular season game, obviously. But like, I don't know. It was interesting that they had him play that much in an elemental game against an offense that's like designed to make your linebackers in particular are just like so confused and change directions and get them all worked around. So it kind of felt like they just threw him into the frying pan.
Yeah.
Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. It didn't really matter for this game because the Niners offense was just completely inept by their own injuries and the elements as well. But, it'll be interesting to see, and especially with the Rams, right, coming up, and the Lions as well. The Lions aren't necessarily like a, super high misdirection sort of team. It's a lot of play action, obviously, but they are also just like we can just spam duo up and down the field if we really want to, and they might just do that. And honestly, the Rams are not that far off, except that their offensive line, when they finally got healthy, has somehow gotten worse. It's such a weird thing that's happened with the Rams, where it's like they kind of survived the fact that their offensive line took so many hits with a suspension and an injury, and then they all came back, and it's like, oh, we're worse now. Like it's just weird. Just a really good job by the Bills defense, and we'll see how Matt Milano progresses back. I kind of get the sense it's probably going to look something like Trey White when he came back a couple of years ago, where it's not going to look great to start. But as we get closer to January, he'll look more like he's rounding into form and like the player we think he is. And I'm excited for that whenever that happens.
We need him to get to 70% of himself for the playoffs. If he gets to that level, like this defense, which is already special, could be really unique this postseason.
100%. Joe DeRosa of Under Review. Go watch Under Review tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm looking for a show that has two distinguished, handsome gentlemen talking ball. Wait a second. I don't know who he's talking about. But thank you, Joe. Watch Under Review tomorrow night. Very good show. With a slightly less handsome host.
I think that's fair.
That's not true. No, that's not true. Joe is actually very handsome. But all right. Before we get out of here, we're gonna do something that we should obviously do, and that is, of course, true or rubbish. And I need to find there it is.
Let's see if it's true or rubbish.
Let's go, folks. If you have never played True or Rubbish before, it is a very simple game. I will give UberHansen a statement. He will tell me if he thinks it is true or rubbish, and then he will elaborate. And I'll also probably give my take. If you have your own take, please put it in the comments. We'll throw it on the screen. So we're going to start off these are all pretty simple. So nothing crazy, but we're going to do it anyway. All right. True or rubbish? The Bills win out their final... Is it 5 games? I've lost track now. 5 games. The Bills win out their final 5 games.
Rubbish.
It was rubbish all after all. It was all rubbish.
I can't see them going 15-2. Like, that is such an insane number. That Lions game, man. Like, the Lions seem like they're built to beat the Bills to some extent. That's the one game I'm legitimately worried about. And I'll also say the Rams are not a slouch. Like, the Rams.
No, you can't look past the Rams.
Yeah. And they're 6-6 right now. They can play physical. They can air it out. It's in their home stadium, in that dome. Like, Buffalo might be coming off a high here. Maybe they take a step back next week. So I think they go probably 4-1, 3-2 at worst, which will be good enough for the 2 seed, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's also a chance where you get into that Week 18 game against the Patriots, and it's like, this doesn't affect seeding. Sit the guys. Maybe they win. Maybe they don't. Whatever. It is what it is. Spin says true with all caps too. That's very emphatic. T-Dop says true. Roy Collins says rubbish. Spin also says can't see us winning out. Well, I bet you didn't see us at 10-2 at this point.
I did not.
You're not wrong. It's not wrong. I can't really argue with that, honestly. Carl Toman says the Lions were lucky to beat the Bears. The Bills can and will beat them and end up at 15-2. The Bears, like this, the Bears are to the Lions what the Jets are to the Bills.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at like Dan Campbell's record against the Bears, it's kind of spotty. It's not great. And even in games where they've won, it's been like a little dicey, like that Thanksgiving game. Like it is what it is. I wouldn't read too much into that. In division games can get very, very strange. RJ says, I originally thought a 10-win season would be a success with their schedule. Listen, it is what it is. That's what happens. All right. Next statement. True or rubbish? The Bills will steal the 1 seed from the Chiefs.
I'm going to go rubbish.
That is rubbish all after all. It was all rubbish.
I do think it's feasible. I think the Chiefs have a sneaky hard end to their season compared to the Bills. What is their next 3 games is Chargers, Browns, Texans. Oh, their final 5 games: Chargers, Browns, Texans, Steelers, Broncos. Those are none of those are easy games. I'm maybe the Browns you could say is easy, but they're weird with Jameis Winston now. They could go beat anybody. I think that they drop 2 games. The question is, does Buffalo drop 2 games as well? If Kansas City does drop 2 and Buffalo only loses to Detroit, they can very easily steal the 1 seed. I just don't know, because this black magic or whatever the hell is surrounding the Chiefs, I just feel like they're somehow going to go 16-1, and the Bills, let's say they go 15-2, I will lose my damn mind because they changed that damn auto buy to only being the 1 seed the second the Bills ascended to being consistently the 2 seed.
Yeah, I don't like it, but it is what it is. And Spin says, true. Man, so much positivity tonight. I don't know what to do with this. This is crazy. Spin says true. T-Dop says true. RJ says rubbish. It's not even on the Bills. KC just keeps winning when they really shouldn't be. Fair. Carl Toman also says the Chiefs will lose 1 game and we have the tiebreaker. So listen, it's possible. Like you said, between the Chargers, the Texans, the Steelers, the Broncos in Denver, one of those games has to happen, right?
Dude,
one of those. I don't know which one. I'm not going to predict which one. I'm not even going to predict how it might happen. Just something has to happen, though. Like it's getting aggravating right now watching them skate by.
And if you can get if we can steal that 1 seed, if the Bills can steal that 1 seed and force Kansas City to be a 2 seed or even a 3 seed, depending on how Pittsburgh plays out the remainder of this year, you're looking at a Chiefs team that hasn't played well for most of the season and would likely need to play the Chargers or the Broncos in that first game. And those divisional matchups, they can get a little weird. I still would obviously pick the Chiefs to win those games, but maybe there's some physicality there. Maybe the Chiefs get knocked in the first, which would be just so good if the Chiefs got knocked out early. I wouldn't even care if it's not the Bills that do it. Like, screw it. I don't give a damn. Just get me into the playoffs ahead of the Chiefs in the pecking order.
T-Dob says Chargers will beat Kansas City. Haven't you watched the NFL long enough to never believe in the Chargers?
Yeah.
I like the Chargers. I like what they're doing. I will never, ever actually genuinely believe in the Chargers ever again. just not going to happen. They could be like a 13-win team. And I'll be like, yeah, good for them. They're a good team. It's not going to do anything with it. That's just, when we say black magic is helping the Chiefs, black magic is destroying it's just cursing the Chargers. Like, it's unfortunate, but that's the case until they prove otherwise.
Yeah.
True or rubbish? Josh Allen is the MVP.
I'm going to say rubbish.
That is rubbish all after all. It was all rubbish.
Uber's being all negative.
I'm being negative. I refuse to believe that these stupid moronic voters will give him that award. It seems like every single year he's in contention for it, the rules around the award shift entirely. The rule forever was you have to be the 1 seed. So I have an argument to be made that Jared Goff or Patrick Mahomes are the only 2 in the conversation right now. Granted, I don't think Jared Goff will win it. I could see them giving it to Mahomes if they win the 1 seed. That being said, let's say they take that rule out for whatever reason. I feel like then they create the slippery slope where they could suddenly say, oh, you don't even have to win your own division. Like, Lamar is the MVP. Lamar's stats are better this year than they were last year, so Lamar should win it. And then the last part of it too, and he should be in the conversation, but quarterbacks are the only ones that win the award. Saquon Barkley's in the running for this award. And I feel like there is some subset of people that are voting for this award that are like, we have to give it to Saquon this year. And it's like, But you never give it to non-quarterbacks. And if you were going to give it to a non-quarterback, last year was the year to do it when Christian McCaffrey was a freak and the actual people that were in the running for MVP weren't very good. So I don't believe they'll give it to him until they actually do hand him the award. And it will not be 49 out of 50 votes if they do give it to Allen. It'll be something like he'll get 24 first-place votes, and he'll get a bunch of second and thirds that end up sneaking him into the MVP award.
I think Saquon has a better case to be MVP than Lamar does this year, honestly. I know that people kind of look at that Eagles offense and they say, oh, but Jalen Hurts is on there and AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. And sure, but how many Eagles games have you watched this year?
Saquon's been special.
It's not just that Saquon has been special, which he has been. This Eagles offense would not be anywhere close to like sustainable or anything if Saquon Barkley was not there, because for the first month of the season they couldn't really put any sort of semblance of a passing game together unless they just found a big play to AJ Brown, and so they just kind of had to rely on Saquon Barkley to get them yards and scores. And then they kind of pared back the offense from the passing game perspective a little bit. And then also said, like, hey, we can run the ball with Saquon Barkley. Why don't we just do that a little bit more? And they really leaned into that, and it's been working, and it's been amazing. And, you know, I'm torn, obviously. And obviously, I am very biased in this conversation. I am a Bills fan. I'm an Eagles fan. I'm kind of just enjoying life right now as a sports fan, which doesn't always happen for me. But just if one wins or the other wins, I'll be happy. But I do think that this is Josh Allen's award to lose. I would be very surprised. I'd be a little surprised if he doesn't win this award at this point.
I'll throw one thing out there. I think for the MVP award in particular, they clinched the division too soon. By the time the voters are voting for this, they'll forget that this happened, and because the vibes only matter in the last like 3 games of the season. So the vibes are great with Buffalo right now, unless the Bills are chasing down that 1 seed and legitimately going for it with 2 games remaining. I think they'll all forget. Oh wait, Buffalo clinched the division when? Oh, December 1st.
I mean, the Eagles aren't that far off from that either.
That's a good point.
It's just the pesky Commanders that have probably prevented them from doing more or less what Buffalo has been doing in terms of that. All right, last one, and then we'll get out of here. True or rubbish, Sean McDermott, Coach of the Year?
Rubbish.
That is rubbish all after all. It was all
When was the last
rubbish.
time you went all rubbish whenever we did something like this?
Never. And I'm also somehow the most negative person on the show tonight when I'm typically the most positive. Sean McDermott's not winning Coach of the Year. All of these pundits and all of these voters, I have a really big issue with these AP voters. The things that they believe and the way they vote are absurd. Obviously, last year, comeback player of the year, the way that panned out was a joke. But Sean McDermott winning Coach of the Year, they're all going to forget what they said in the preseason when they said, oh, this Bills roster is terrible. And they're just going to be like, oh, yeah, of course the Bills were going to be this good this year. Sean McDermott does not deserve that award. He clearly does. He has coached his ass off this season. I would argue that this is the best coaching job of his career. He deserves the award. He won't win it. It'll probably be Kevin O'Connell or depending on how the NFC West pans out, I could even see Mike McDonald getting some run or John Gannon getting a little bit of run there as well. But the one slap in the face would be if it's Dan Campbell. And the Lions have been really good, but they were always going to be really good. So if you're comparing Dan Campbell and Sean McDermott deserves the award more than Dan Campbell does.
I would probably put the same case with like Mike Tomlin, right? Where like Mike Tomlin is obviously doing a great job as he always does. Like this Steelers season is not that much different than previous Steelers seasons, other than the fact that they have a quarterback that's not an active detriment to their team, right? And an offensive coordinator that isn't an active detriment to their team. And, Mike Tomlin was the one who hung on to Matt Canada for much longer than he should have. But that's neither here nor there in 2024. I don't know what Mike Tomlin is necessarily doing this year that is different than other years. Dan Campbell, they were the favorites to win that division, rightfully so. and he kept both coordinators coming into the season, who everyone felt great about. The Bills had a new defensive coordinator who had never called plays before. The defense is still good. The offense promoted their interim coordinator, Joe Brady. The offense has been better. The offense has been more balanced. It's been stronger. He's helped transform Josh Allen into a different type of quarterback. I don't know. And they legitimately offloaded so much talent that it became that it dropped the expectations of the Bills. Like we talked about at the top of the show.
Yeah.
But half of the media cognoscenti of the NFL basically said, yeah, it's the Dolphins or the Jets who are going to win this division. Now, there were still some people who were willing to say it's the Bills division until they prove otherwise. But that was not the overwhelming majority of people. People were riding the Jets and the Dolphins. Yeah. And the Bills have come out on top, and they've come out on top so strongly that it is genuinely absurd. Like you said, 5.5 games ahead of everyone else in this division, and that second team is the Dolphins, and they're not that good. Like, it should be, if Josh Allen doesn't win MVP, Sean McDermott should be coach of the year, and vice versa. And frankly, both of them should win those awards, their respective rewards.
I agree.
Awards.
Whatever.
Yeah. And if neither of them wins either award, just I hope that is the barrel of kerosene that gets thrown onto the fire, and the Bills just blitz their way to the Super Bowl and kick ass.
Dude, at the end of the day, I don't. If no award is won except a Lombardi Trophy is lifted, I could give two damns about it. I want these awards because I want Allen to get that recognition, that official recognition as MVP. He's deserved it. I want him to get that. I want Sean McDermott to get that Coach of the Year because he's deserved it. But at the end of the day, if they lift the Lombardi Trophy, those awards don't matter.
Yep.
It's that Super Bowl.
100%. Folks, thank you for joining us tonight. It has been a delight and a joy to be able to share and bask in the glory of the Bills' 5th straight AFC East title with all of you. I hope that if you were at that game, that you enjoyed yourself and that you also stayed safe from the snow, because there was so much freaking snow. There's so much snow. And I am grateful for all of you for being here tonight. If you have not done it already, please hit like on your way out. It is very helpful for us, and it improves the algorithm. If you share this with your friends, enemies, lovers, and neighbors, that is also greatly appreciated. If you're listening to this after our live show, leave a review on iTunes, on Spotify, wherever you're listening to this. It is very, very helpful. If you want to have more of this, if you want more of this show, if you want more of other shows like this, please consider subscribing to Cover One One Pass. Go to cover1.net and sign up there to directly support us. It's $60 a year. It is the very best money you'll spend on football all year. That is not an exaggeration. That's just fact. It's one of the best decisions you'll make all year. As Just the Tip of Canoe suggests, share it to MySpace. You know, if you're still on there. Good for you, I guess.
I just went to MySpace. I didn't even know it was a real URL still.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I know it still exists, but I don't know who actually uses this. Maybe we'll start that up. Maybe that'll be like the new. If we have to leave Discord for some reason, we'll just go to MySpace.
Go to MySpace.
All right, folks. Thank you for joining us. Uber, where can the people find you?
At UberHansen on Twitter. I'll be dropping rooting interest on Wednesday on both Twitter and Reddit. And then on Friday, a matchup preview of the Bills-Rams game on si.com/NFL/Bills.
You can find me at DFAUXY or at DFoxy on Twitter. You can also find me writing for Buffalo Bills SI as well, doing post-game recaps. I just wrote one for last night's game. It was a lot of fun to write that, and if you want to read that, please do. It's great, and I always appreciate the support for doing that. Thank you all for joining us tonight. As usual, go Bills for the 5th straight year, AFC East Division champions. We will see you all next week. Bye bye.